I'm going to tell you a great, profound theological truth that will probably catch you by complete surprise. So I'm just giving you that warning to say that you're fair warned. Christians don't always get along. I know. Shocking, isn't it? Hard to believe. Christians don't always get along. They don't always agree on things. They don't always come out on the same side of positions. And that's not quite a problem in and of itself. But what happens after the disagreement is supremely important. And here's why. From as far back as the days of Abraham, God has revealed that his purpose is to save the world through his holy people, to share the light of salvation through his holy people, Abraham and his descendants. And then Israel was called together, and the law was given to them, and Israel became God's representatives in the world. And the purpose God had was to make them a light to the nations. It didn't work out quite the way it would have been nice for it to have done. And so all things were centered down into the Christ who becomes the perfect Israel, who perfectly obeys. And then, after Christ is raised from the dead, God's purpose is now focused in that his redemption would come to the world through all those who are in Christ Jesus. So you're following me now? The light of the world is you. Jesus said, you are the light of the world. And so if the world is dark, it needs more light. And where's that light coming from? It's you. Now, if God has chosen the church to be the light of the world, to be his agency of salvation, and you're the enemy of God, who do you think you would make your primary target? It's okay to guess out loud. The church. This is a gracious place, so if you get it wrong, we will not shame you. The church. And how does the enemy often work? Well, by causing Christians to get all at odds with each other. And so Jesus anticipates that, and he talks about it in this passage. He says, if a brother, if a sister, if a fellow member of the church sins against you, that needs to be addressed. Conflict is inevitable. One of my favorite Father Jim sayings is, that person is so contrary they can start a fight in an empty house. You don't mind me quoting you, do you? So we're capable of getting into conflict when we're all by ourselves, certainly when we're with other people. And, if we're with other Christians trying to do something for God, well, then there's bound to be times we don't see things particularly the same way. As I was reflecting on this, it just occurs to me, we've been working on this place for, almost a year now, I believe, since we started the project. And you guys have come through so graciously. I mean, there's been thousands of decisions made about how to shape the windows or what color the carpet should be or, how to do the lighting and on out. And yet everyone has come through so beautifully, so together on things. And that's a testimony to the Spirit of God among us. That is part of our signature grace. Guard it. Guard it with your hearts. It is a gift God has given to us. But what happens when things go wrong? Conflict in relationship is not a failure. Maybe you grew up in an environment where conflict in itself was seen as a failure. Conflict in relationship is not a failure. Ignoring it is. The failure is not the conflict, but ignoring it is the failure. And yet, the instinct is, I just don't want to have to deal with it. I don't want to have to face it. I'll be nice, I'll just kind of blow it off, I'll let that person go, and then I'll be more like Jesus because I'm ignoring their problems, which is not what Jesus does, is it? At all. Listen to the words of St. Augustine. I put this on my Facebook page this week, and we got hits from all over the country. Listen closely, it's kind of a densely packed statement. When anyone, therefore, offends against us, let us be very careful, not for ourselves, for it is glorious to forget an injury. Forget, therefore, your own wrong, therefore forget what was done to you as a wrong, but not the wound your brother has sustained. Tell him of his fault between him and you alone, seeking his amendment and sparing his shame. You see the shift there? The shift is when we're wrong, the focus is not on my rights and how I have been violated, but the focus is on the soul of my brother or my sister and how I can help heal them. Because when we just let conflict go, it inevitably unpacks this way. If you're having conflict with someone, and even if they don't know you're in conflict with them, you will be less inclined to want to hang around them, won't you? And your brain, the subconscious, doing what it does so well, will begin to compile a list of all the reasons you don't want to be around them, compile a list of all their shortcomings. And it's amazing how good our brains are at finding fault with other people. Isn't that an amazing thing? Our brains are so good at finding fault with other people. And so we get this big, long list of reasons we don't want to be around them, reasons why we don't like them, reasons why we're mad at them. And pretty soon, there's this wall built up. And now I can say, oh, I've forgiven them, it's just in the past. But it isn't really if we've left it unresolved. Jesus says, go to them. Go. The initiative is on our part. The initiative is on the part of the one who is wronged. Are you still with me on this? It's complex, I know, but this is really key stuff. Why should I have to do that? Well, that's just the way grace works. And it's go to them, you and them alone, and talk about what's going on. Not go to 2 or 3 of your friends and talk about what they did to you. And here's how we dress it up in spiritual language to try to make a sinful thing sound holy. I wonder if you could pray with me about this situation. This person did this to me. And if they were walking with Jesus like they should, they obviously couldn't have done that. And I could even show in the Bible where they were wrong. And, I forgive them and all that, but I'm just concerned about them, and I want you to help share my burden, help me pray for them. Now, do you see how easy it is to make sin look saintly? We dress it up. Jesus says, don't do that. Don't talk to other people. Don't talk to your spouse. Don't talk to your dog about it. Well, maybe you can talk to your dog about it, but beyond that, go to the person one-on-one, talk about it, and see if you can work things out. Go and have a loving conversation. Now, there's just 2 ditches here I want to clue you into. On the one side, there's the ditch of judgmentalism, where you go to them and you say, the other day when you did that to me, well, I looked it up in the Bible, and that was wrong, and you owe me an apology. Now, that doesn't feel really warm and friendly like you're going to build anything. The other side is an equally perilous ditch, which we're probably more likely to fall into. And on the other side is cowardice. And cowardice goes to them and say, hey, how you doing? there was something that, probably it's not I'm a little bit oversensitive here, and probably it's no real problem, but I just want to make sure everything's okay. Okay? You see how awkward that was? And yet how natural? Jesus is specific. He says, talk to them about the fault. Identify the fault graciously and lovingly, with the purpose not of condemning them, but of restoring relationship. It may turn out to be a misunderstanding. It may turn out that they will soften and there'll be reconciliation and healing. I've seen that happen many, many times. Or it may be that additional help is required. That doesn't mean it's over. I've spent more time on this first phase of this because that's the hardest part, isn't it? The hardest part is to decide, I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to fight for this relationship. I'm going to do what I can to help heal and restore this. And I wonder if the church were a place where people always did that, would we leave a little bit different impression in the world in which we live? Jesus mentions these escalations, and we don't need to spend a lot of time with them, but if that doesn't work, get a couple of people to go with you. And again, it's not people who you've said, now this person is all evil and wicked, and I want you to help me to nail them to the wall. So come with me. It's not that. You're getting people who are neutral and unbiased, and you go with them to help restore relationship. If that doesn't work, we go to the church. And now that's been understood since I could find a commentary as early as the 300s. where it means the church leadership. It doesn't mean that you get up on a Sunday morning and say, so-and-so took my parking place. I was pulling into it out there on the way to church, and they took it. And I think they should be judged right now, right here. Yeah, we don't do that. But you can get the church leadership involved to help work reconciliation. If that doesn't work, then you just write them off and say, forget about it, I did my part. No. Dang, thought we were there already, huh? Jesus says, treat him like you would a pagan or a tax collector. Now, here's something. Let's make a connection here, a very important connection. Who wrote the gospel that we just read from? Does anyone remember what Matthew did before he started following Jesus? He was a tax collector. So when Matthew is writing down these words, he's thinking, treat him like a tax collector. I remember how Jesus treated me. That was pretty awesome. I decided to leave my sinful life and follow him. So do you see what it is? At no point do we ever just write this fellow believer or this brother or sister or this fellow member of the church. No, at no point do we ever write them off. We continue to behave in redemptive ways toward them. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of nuances to that we could go into if we had time. We don't. But the key thing I really want you to take to heart is don't abandon conflict without at least giving it a chance to be solved biblically. Does that make sense? It's what it means to be church. Committed to each other in costly love. Any family is going to have differences of opinions on things. What makes our family so special is that we don't let that stop us from being loving toward one another. And the people and the friends that you bring in this place will discover that too. And learn that this is a place where I can be honestly loved. Thanks be to God. Amen.